Lord, give us breath to breathe today. Lord, fill our hearts with love. And Holy Spirit, fill us with understanding. As we're preparing for this Independence Day, I thought about what freedom means to a Christian. Because normally when people talk about independence and freedom, they talk about not being a servant or a slave. But is that what it means for a Christian? Both St. Paul and Martin Luther wrote about this. But before we listen to what they wrote, let's see a dictionary definition of freedom. According to the online dictionary that I pulled up, there are 17 entries for the definition of freedom. I will spare you going through all 17 of these. I picked the top 3. The first one is a state of being free or at liberty rather than under confinement. The second one is an exemption from external control, interference, regulations, or etc. And the third one is the power to determine action without restraint. Now let's take a look and see if any of these apply to us as Christians living the gospel. Now that first one, on being free or at liberty rather than under confinement. Okay, as I look around the sanctuary, I see that we are free. None of us are confined. We had a choice. We could attend the service. We could stay at home. If you're at home, you could turn on Facebook, and watch the service from home. Or you could do something else. You have that freedom. You are not confined. But that definition really doesn't fit what Paul wrote to the Galatians. Because what Paul wrote was, "For freedom Christ has set us free. Stand firm, therefore. Do not submit again to a yoke of slavery. For you are called to freedom, brothers and sisters. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity for self-indulgence, but through love become slaves to one another." So that definition, that first definition, really doesn't work. So let's look at the second definition. Exemption from external control, interference, regulation, or etc. No, that one doesn't really ring true as a Christian either. Because Paul continued on in his letter to the Galatians. "For you were called to freedom, brothers and sisters. Only do not use your freedom as an opportunity of self-indulgence, but through love become slaves to one another. For the whole of the law is summed up in a single commandment. You shall love God with all your heart and all your mind and all your soul, and love your neighbor as yourself." That really doesn't mean exemption from external control. Because as followers of Christ, we humbly submit to that law. So let's take a look at that third definition. Power to determine action without restraint. I think we're getting a little closer. Because Paul continued on by writing, "By contrast, the fruits of the Spirit are love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. There is no law against such things." And as you folks heard me tell the kids just a few minutes ago, I wanted them to share that. Because that's what Christ calls us to share. That is the freedom that we are talking about. The freedom to choose good and express our love to one another through our actions. But by choosing to follow the Spirit, we are doing what Martin Luther wrote in his writing concerning Christian liberty. He famously wrote, "A Christian is the most free Lord of all and subject to none. A Christian is the most dutiful servant and subject to everyone." Now before, we've talked, even in adult form, about how living life as a Christian is very different from living by the rules of the secular world. Because popular society would say, You who work in the service of others are then slaves to society. That's a negative point of view. That view is the opposite of what Christ teaches. For if we look around, everyone in this room works as a servant to help the society around us. Whether it's our neighbors we know, people we don't know, folks around the world that we give to through our actions and volunteer work. Because just within this congregation, we have teachers, civil servants, military, firemen, nurses, and other professions that are all about reaching and helping the others. And that's just the professionals. That doesn't include the volunteer work that this congregation does. Folks who donate time, talent, and money to help people all around us. We just had a group of folks helping out at the Hilda Bard Center. On Thursday, during the parade, are going to have folks handing out water. Helping the people that we can. That is the service of spirit. For we, as loving God with all our hearts and all our minds and all our soul, and loving our neighbors as ourselves, we want to share that fruit of the Spirit. We want to share love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are the things we need to share because, as Paul reminds us, there is no law against such things. And if there's no law against it, then we are free to do it. Please join with me in prayer. Lord, you created each one of us free. Christ, you were crucified, died, returned to free us from sin. And Holy Spirit, you lead us with joy of service to one another, which is freedom of service in God.